was on a call earlier this afternoon with one of my business partners who had found himself in a situation where he was writing offer after offer after offer for this one buyer who he was bending over backwards for, bending over backwards, going the extra mile. And he was starting to build this frustration, this resentment towards the client, because despite all of this, the decision making just wasn't quite where he wanted it to be, meaning like there was some like lowball offers and the client not seeing eye to eye with the seller. And so the frustration was mounting. And I observed in the language pattern of the agent that he was saying a lot of things like, well, I made the offer at this price. I made the offer at that price. And so ownership over basically like the decision making, he was starting to use these I statements. And so I asked him point blank, I said, hey, is the client buying the house or are you buying the house? Because I'm confused. So you said that you just made the offer. Like, no, I made the offer on behalf of my client. Okay, gotcha. Got it. So because I explained them, as the way that you're explaining it is that it's all about you. And so as agents, it's difficult sometimes to remove ourselves emotionally from the entirety of the process. Case in point, if you've ever read Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, one of the best marketing books of all time, talks about most marketers, most businesses, aka realtors, most realtors, their marketing makes them the hero of the story. It's like, well, we are the best real estate agents in the world. When in reality, we should be focusing on talking about the client being the hero and us being the guide. We're the guide. We're facilitating the journey, but the client is ultimately the hero of the story. And so if we adopt that mentality, it should never be about us. It should never be about the agent. It should always be about the client, even in the difficult moments. And that's the point of this message is, as agents, it is imperative that we remove ourselves emotionally from the entirety of the situation. Easier said than done. I get it. Because I too have been in situations where I'm like super frustrated with my clients and angry at them. Or not just angry at my clients. Sometimes I'm angry at the seller for not accepting my buyer's offer. It's like, well, what good does that do? Or I'm angry at the buyer on the other side who backed out after we accepted their offer. How many times has that happened, right? We're angry. We project our emotions onto the transaction, where in reality, we should be emotionally removed from the situation. Let me ask you this. When has any good rational decision been made in a highly emotional situation? Never. The question you should always ask yourself internally is like, am I in the right emotional state to make this kind of decision? As agents, our job is to stay emotionally agnostic from all situations so that we can help our clients make the best decision for themselves. If we get emotional over the same thing that our clients are getting emotional, how can any rational and good decision be made ever? It just doesn't happen, right? So, which is why we find a lot of times agents, you ever see agents who constantly go into contract and fall out, constantly go into contract and they fall out, constantly go into contract and fall out. That is the result of an emotionally immature agent who doesn't understand how to handle their own emotions and in turn cannot help their clients handle their own emotions. So they're in and out, in and out, in and out. Or you see the agents who take listings in the same thing where they can't even get them sold or whatever. Like there's always going to be situations in which you find yourself emotionally compromised where you feel like, man, I can't, I'm really upset right now. Okay. And in those moments, we have to remind ourselves that your job is to recenter and refocus yourself and take yourself out of that situation so that you can be the best agent possible for your client. The only way to ensure that deals don't get done is to stay highly emotional and to stay highly tied into the outcome of the situation, because highly emotional decisions are typically not highly rational ones. And while we want to help our clients and when we want to help them in the best way possible, we have to counterbalance what they're experiencing, because buying a home is stressful. It is a highly emotional period of one's life. And as their agent, we must be the counterbalance to that, which means despite the inconvenience and despite how difficult it might be, the best agents are the ones that are able to remove themselves emotionally from the outcome and from the entirety of the process and really just be there to help balance out and ultimately get your client what they want. This is Danny Gould, selling Silicon Valley. Stay legendary, everybody.